Welcome back to another episode of NFL News on the Boom Bust channel. I'm your host, Terry, and today, doing our quarter one check-in, we are 4 games into the season, and so we're going to do our check-in. I think last year I tried to go every week, and that just, I didn't have the time, so ended up converting to just the different quarters of the season, and that works better because that gives us a nice sample size. So like always, even though I think it gets worse every year, and this year is the worst it's been, people overreact to everything, and it's insane. Now, look, I'm at this point. I'm not even gonna complain about sports media anymore. They know what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing, and whatever. There's people that like that type of entertainment. That's fine, but the issue is you have too many casual fans who take their cues from sports media, and so then they recycle all these narratives and they think the same way that sports media thinks, and that's terrible analysis. So you got all these people going week to week, oh, this is great, oh no, they're horrible, oh, this, that, and the other. So 4 games is still super early in the season, so I'm not going to stake a claim or downhill of anything right now, but this is just a check-in to see kind of where we are. All right, so headlines. Initially, I was going to do this Tuesday, and at that time, there were no headlines. And now we got the Davante Adams trade. That's the biggest thing. Honestly, by the time this is uploaded, he might be traded already. I don't think anybody's really surprised by this. The only thing I felt, the only thing that kind of made me feel like confident in Davante staying potentially is when he did his interview with Club Shay Shay, and he really seemed that he did not want to move his family. He didn't want to move. My guess is his family's probably gonna stay, but I don't know. That's a big thing. When you got money, of course you could afford it, but still, it's a big thing to uproot the family and move and do all these new things in the middle of the season. So I really thought the way he was talking, he valued, like he said, he literally said he valued his quality of life over, all the other stuff. And I guess, even when you take people at their word, you got to remember humans, they can change their minds, because you get to a point where Derek Carr left. Obviously, that was his friend, but he was probably the best quarterback they had. And so you get to a spot where you don't have competent quarterback play consistently. You're not putting up the numbers, and we all know how dumb sports media and fans are. Oh, he's not putting up the numbers, he sucks. I hear it all the time by Kyle Pitts, which is insane. You think Davante Adams don't know how to play because the quarterback can't give him the ball? But anyway, so that starts to eat at you. And then whatever happened with him and the head coach, now nobody wants to be in a place where you hate going to work every day. And to be honest, that's probably why I wouldn't be shocked if Sirianni gets fired. Like, I wouldn't say defend, but I'm always going to give more benefit of the doubt to coaches, because people have no idea what's going on in the building. They have no idea who's really a good coach outside of maybe game management on game day. They don't know how well these coaches coach. They just talk. But it's very clear from both player and the coach, they don't get along, and nobody wants to go to work like that every day, especially the quarterback. So I wouldn't be shocked if he gets fired. But anyway, I do think it's funny, like how it all unraveled with Instagram, like the head coach liking the Instagram post. That's just, man, social media, that you can talk about that forever. It's such a goofy world we live in now. But that's I do think that was funny. Now he's looking to get traded. He already said Saints or Jets, or I believe somebody who claimed they talked to him said that. I don't know if he said it publicly. So obviously going to play with quarterbacks he already knew. Honestly, I don't really think either of those are a great option for the teams, because the Saints, they're good where they are right now. And to be honest, they are very much a run, play action, 2 to 3 route type of team. And especially with Taysom Hill, when he's healthy, even though he's out right now, that's going to add, some other snaps that get taken away. So I don't know that that's a great fit. If you spend the assets, you probably got other needs than receiver. Same thing for the Jets. I mean, the offense isn't clicking, but you got targets. I mean, you could say between Mike Williams and Lazard, they would like to upgrade, but much like most cases, like if you aren't protecting, you don't got good enough protection, and there's not a lot of offensive linemen that's going to become available, so that might not even be an option. But if you're not protecting, or if you got something going on defense that's more urgent, it's just hard for me to see using premium assets to get another receiver. I mean, Garrett Wilson's great, and everybody would like to think adding Devontae would unlock Garrett as well as Devontae and potentially Lazard too. And that's true to an extent, but at the same time, I just think you got a lot of mouths to feed because Brees catches a lot of passes. Now Braylon Allen is in there, and Garrett is a potential star. He loves going to Lazard. You add Devontae, it's a lot going on. So I don't know that pushes them over the hump like some people say. All right, moving on. Overrated. This would have hit harder last week, but I've been saying it all year. The Bills as a team. Now, of course, overrated is a dirty word to everybody, and they gonna start crying and saying I'm talking about their team. But I don't. Overrated doesn't mean I think you're bad. It just means you're rated too high. And then again, the Bills went out and played the Ravens, and now people probably would agree with that. But I really think the overrated part just is a victim of that week to week bias. And it's just so silly. Cause again, I say it all the time, like how you or what you do doesn't matter as much as how you do it. So yes, a team could be 4-0. Yes, a team could have whatever, record or rankings, I should say, but you got to be able to watch the game. You could tell it very evident now this year that people do not watch the game. Shout out to Kurt Warner for calling people out. They don't watch the games. They might watch highlights. They look at box scores. That's it. And so when you watch the Bills, and I was saying this before the Ravens game, because again, one of the many things that I hate, but probably hate the most, is when everyone talks definitive. Well, of course we know this player. Well, duh, this player. Stephen A's the worst at it, and I'm like, you can't do that if you didn't know it before. You didn't say anything before, but now it's of course. Now it's a obviously. But you wasn't saying that before. So how do you get to tell somebody what's obvious and what's plain and you didn't even see it? So I don't like that. So people like, obviously the Bills are the best, blah, blah. And I was just like, I don't really trust that secondary to continue to play this well. I think that secondary is very suspect. And they're hurt on defense all over. And the pass rush has been, I wouldn't even say pretty good. It was really good the first few games. Now Von Miller suspended, and I just, I think the pass rush would have been fine, but overall defensively, like run in pass, I just did not really feel like I trusted that unit to continue to play at a high level. And then offensively, you got Josh Allen, of course, James Cook, and they're running the ball. They got a different style, and they got some weapons. They haven't really figured out the groove, but yes, you got Josh Allen. You believe you got a chance. My biggest thing with the Bills, and probably with a lot of teams, is the defense, and that's what I wonder about. Again, not to say they're not good, but to sit here and say that they were clearly the best team, again, we're not talking about sitting in the moment, who's got more wins, rank them. Like, what's the point of that? We all can read. We can read standings. The point is to project, and I said the Bills are good, but I would not say they were the best. Also overrated, the veteran quarterbacks playing well. I mean, Baker, Sam Darnold's probably the biggest news. Look, you saw it last year with Joe Flacco. And this conversation, at least if you listen to me, has been had 1,000 times. The way that people completely dismiss the context, the team around a player is insane to me. And of course, it's the worst with a quarterback. You do not play football in a vacuum. I don't care what Mahomes did for a game or a stretch of games or the playoffs or what Brady did or whatever. The totality of your career is going to be dependent on the team around you. And so the idea that people are trashing quarterbacks and saying they're bust, they suck, and all that, and we'll get to it later. That conversation has been changing, but the fact that people have done that for years, and for you to think that you put them on a team that is loaded, that they wouldn't look better, it blows my mind. I mean, you see so many people sit here and be like, well, Brock Purdy, he did what he did because he was on the 49ers. It wouldn't have looked like that if he was drafted to another team. How can you understand that, but you can't understand it when it comes to Sam Darnold? Or you can't understand it when it comes to these other guys? The draft position thing is so silly to me. Like, we get that in the logical, perfect world, the better players get drafted earlier, and a lot of times do. But we know that doesn't mean that because you're not a first round pick, you can't play. That doesn't mean that because this person went before you, they have to be better than you. That's not how it works. So I just don't understand why it's so hard for people to understand the concept the team matters. And so you get these quarterbacks into situations that are infinitely better than where they were. And now it's like, oh my God, I can't believe they're playing well. Oh my God. Like, I think that conversation is so overrated. Because it turns into, oh, this coach woke him up or this coach changed him. And Geno, same thing, or a few years ago. Oh, this coach did this. And it's like, well, maybe they had time to actually learn the game and they went to a good situation. All right, underrated. This is the dirty thing that nobody wants to talk about. And I understand why. I'm not blaming nobody. But Tua obviously has a decision and everything to make, but all the reports is that he's going to come back. And we already saw it last year or the year before where it was like, hey, yeah, he's got to consider retirement. He never considered it. Well, he did say he considered it, but we know he came back. And I think that's going to be the same thing. And that's fine. That's a different discussion. That's up to him. My thing is the dirty thing nobody's talking about. Tua looked terrible before he got hurt. Absolutely terrible. Now, he only played 2 games and put up big yards in the first game, 101 rating, QB rating, so not like, amazing, but pretty good. And then the second game looked terrible, and they were at home. So the question is not necessarily what Tua will we get, but what is this offense going to look like this year? Obviously, we know it'll look better than what they got now, but Tua got the money. We all know that he got the money, and we know what he did last year. Not only on the good side of all those numbers he put up, but also on the bad side of how he completely fell short against good teams and in cold weather. And so the question is, what is Tua going to look like going forward? Should he come back? And I think that's an underrated discussion because obviously nobody wants to talk about it because of the injuries and the concussions, which is fine. But I think we're past that point, and I think his game got overshadowed by the whole concussion discussion. But the fact of the matter is he looked really, 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 really bad. And not only did he look bad, the play calling was awkward. And I know, you probably could boil it down to that last drive or so before the half where it looked really weird. But even before that, I think something seemed out of sync. And so I'm curious as to how Tua will look, not only coming off of, the emotion of having to deal with all this things with concussion and retirement, but also coming off a really terrible game, and nobody's really talking about that. Especially how bad the Dolphins look. Everybody's just talking about Tua come back and everything looking better. All right, the Lions, similar to the Bills. Um, the Lions now the hot team, and that's now they're clearly the best team in the NFC. Because that just continues to happen of the clearlies. And so everybody's talking about them. And again, not saying that they are a bad team. And I'm not even necessarily saying they're overrated because we know how I think they're one of the better teams in the league or in the NFC. I do think that's true. But the underrated conversation is their pass defense. Their pass defense is not good. And again, it's been 4 games, but their pass defense is pretty bad. So that's something that I think people have to think about. Now, you will hear somebody say, well, such and such was injured, da da da, and I get that. But this is a trend. The pass defense, and since Dan Campbell has been there, has been rough, and it's been a bit of an Achilles heel. Now, obviously they put a lot of resources to get better in it. Branch, they got Arnold now. They got other guys over the years. CJ didn't work out that great last year, but still they put resources into it. But it's been a trend. It's been a trend. Like their pass defense has kind of been weak over the last few years, and right now they're not that much better. The Lions, they've been getting some sacks, so they've been getting some pressure. That's been better. And I think in the years before, that was one of my big concerns, where you don't really have anybody to get pressure consistently. And so they're going to continue to hit up your secondary. But they gotten better at their pressure, but still secondary's giving up a lot. I mean, right now they've given up the second most passing first downs in the league. And so that's something that you got to think. And then obviously if you watch the game, people will be like, yeah, they just got lit up by Geno now, and that's part of it. But even prior to that, their pass defense was towards the bottom of the league. So that's something that's, again, I think that gets overshadowed by the offense. And it's like, oh, wow, these weapons, and look at what they're doing, and they're scoring now. They look like last year. They have, a creative offense, and that's fine. But pass defense is something to keep an eye on, especially with Arnold kind of struggling early in this season with being a little bit of a flag magnet. Underrated. Bengals offense, for as dumb as the conversation was the first week. And of course, everybody's disappeared now, but they was loud and wrong first week. Joe Burrow can't throw deep. I'm like, again, you looking at stats, you looking at pass charts, you're not watching the game. The man literally threw deep in the first game, and the passes were fine. The first game, you had a fumble at the goal line by a receiver, tight end, I remember, and then you had Gesicki drop a touchdown as well. Joe Burrow's passing was just fine. And yes, they went underneath because of the coverage that the New England Patriots were playing. And so if you watch the game and you watch the film, Burrow was perfectly fine. He was in rhythm. I was trying to tell everybody that. People kept trying to say he sucked. For whatever reason, the Lamar Jackson mob came out of nowhere to attack Burrow. I guess they're in the same division, but still. So that was the whole thing. Then the weeks following, it got better, and then people just kind of shut up. But the Bengals are number 2 in the league in first down efficiency. So, what's the number? I forgot. It's like 30 something. 1 second. Is this right? Oh no, I have to. Yeah. Okay, I gotta fix that. But it's 34.4%. That means 34.4% of their offensive plays go for first downs. That's second in the league, people. That offense has been completely underrated. Chargers defense. Chargers defense lead across a lot of categories. And for those new, I don't do points per game, yards per game. Like obviously those matter and you can look at those, but there's other stats that I find a little more helpful. And so right now the Chargers lead in a lot, including some of those yards per game and points per game, excuse me. They got a nice sack total. And as far as first downs efficiency, they're towards the top. They're number one. Actually, they're number one in both. They're number one in total first downs given up, and they're number one in total first down efficiency. We know that Herbert has been injured, and that offense is a grinded out offense now. But I think people, and I'm sure Chargers fans remember, if you really think about the last few years, actually probably more than that, and how the Chargers defense had so much talent, but just continually underachieved and just really not even underachieved. They were a really bad defense. So, and I'll take ignorance on this. I don't know all the changes they have in terms of starters. I know both the linebackers are gone, but they were able to bring back Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa, and Khalil Mack is enjoying a good year. But either way, you got a lot of those same pieces, but they're playing much, much, much better. So I think that's an underrated discussion. Shout out to their defensive coordinator. Marvin Harrison Jr. I've talked about this before, and it's fine. I get it, because the narrative of Marvin is locked in. Nobody's going to believe it until the last second. And I'm not saying he's a bust or nothing like that, but he is not the prolific. He's not what everybody tries to say. Here's the issue. Receivers come in all types of flavors now. And people are stuck in this idea of an elite receiver is just an elite receiver just because. No, each receiver, a lot like running backs, are good at different things. Elite guys are good at a lot of things, probably most of them. But Marvin, he's not going to be that type of route runner. He wasn't in college. And the DBs are 80 times better in the NFL. I said this all draft season. I kept trying to tell people, and nobody, wants to hear it because, again, the narrative is in there. So you watch the games, and I've done a film session, you watch the games, and you have the first game where it's just like, okay, they need to feed him. Like, everybody messed up, essentially, except Marvin Harrison. It was it was everybody else's fault. But you watch the game and you watch the film, he has no separation. And he's running decoy routes a lot, but that's just the offense. And so I'm like, yeah, okay, you probably shouldn't have him running decoy routes. You need to get him into some of the concepts on some of the plays, but still, even when he's running those routes, he ain't double teamed. He's going against one person and he's getting no separation. So there's that. Then the second game, he put up these big numbers and everyone went crazy, right? Everyone went absolutely crazy. And so it was like, you go to the film, a lot of broken plays, and they started to change his routes. He was no longer running vertical routes like up and down. He was running horizontal routes, which I said you're going to have to do because he's not going to give any breaks. He's not going to be able to give any breaks because his hips are so angular that they know exactly where he's running. And so there you go. And after that, the next game, again, they kind of got it to him early. Then it kind of fell off. And you've seen that where it's not consistent throughout the whole game. So you got what's these called? Advanced stats now with the NFL. Guess who's near the bottom of the league in average separate? Not even near the bottom. I'm second to last. And that's Marvin Harrison Jr. Average separation on their routes, second to last, tied with Mike Williams. Now, I will point this out of fairness. CeeDee Lamb is right above him. So there's that. Now, I haven't watched the Cowboys. I haven't seen exactly what they're doing, but we know what type of player CD is. But we also know that the Cowboys offense has been great this year, so maybe he's not getting open. I don't know. But for Marvin to rank there in the data versus what I was saying with him coming out, it aligns. And then it aligns with when you see the game and the stats and the targets. Because Kyler, especially that first two games, he's reading his progression. This isn't a let's force Marvin the ball, give him the ball. He told you that's not his job. He's reading the progression. Marvin is not open. And so now they went to some more, hey, let's do specific things. What they really did is what they did with Jay Jetta in his rookie year. A lot of deep crossers, a lot of play action, deep crossers across the field. They're doing that a lot, and they're ripping it to the end zone off of that as well. And so that's going to work. That's going to work because that's hard to defend, especially if you catch him in man. That's going to work, and he's fast. He's fast, but doesn't mean he can run routes. So if you're fast and you're running full speed across the field as man coverage, that's hard to cover. And so he'll get his targets and some yards, but he's just not that type of receiver. And again, a lot of casual people, you got to get over the fact that somebody can have a critique and not be crapping on somebody or hating on somebody. All right, so there's that. I think that's an underrated discussion. Surprises. QB development has been attacked, and I've talked about it before. I talked about it in the offseason, but now you have the big voices coming out, and I won't spend too much time on this because I've talked about it before, but essentially the narrative has started to change. It should be all players, but specifically with quarterbacks, this idea of how bad the development has been between college and NFL, the transition, and how much these quarterbacks don't know because they're in simplified spread systems. And I've been talking about this 6 years ago. And so it's only gotten worse. NFL teams, mostly, I would say, because impatience, but also the very real cap situation. Because all that, they want the quarterbacks out there early. They want to win early while they're cheap. And so instead of throwing them out there and they looking completely inept, coaches have decided, well, we'll make a simplified system. Some coaches have, and we'll roll with that. And defenses adjust. I don't understand why everybody does not. It's very obvious over all of football's history. Defenses adjust. Everybody says, oh, that was crazy. They did that last year. They're going to come in and do it again. No, defenses will adjust. They will force you because the defense wants to take away your tendencies. And that doesn't mean you can't do other things. And it might be simple things, but if they don't see that you like to do that on tape, they won't worry about it. So you're going to have to do what you don't like to do in order to catch them off guard. So similar now, like these offenses and all the little, things they like to do to help these young quarterbacks, they're getting killed this year, absolutely killed. And so now that conversation is being started. Now that conversation with Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, Geno Smith is being started. Now people are kind of like, oh, I guess it does pay to be a vet. I guess it does pay to know how to work under center. I guess it does pay to know how to read a defense. So I'm surprised because, I forgot the term. I guess yelling at the moon, we'll say that. I've been yelling at the moon or at the sun, throwing rocks. I don't know. I've been yelling at the moon for years about it. But now that you got Tom Brady coming in saying it, Kurt Warner saying it, all these other type of people. Now people are starting to be like, oh, okay, I guess that's true. Um, Next surprise, Mahomes regression. And again, regression does not mean, I'm not talking skill regression. We're talking play regression. And regressions doesn't have to last forever. Regressions happen in stats. You can regress, you can go back to the mean, whatever. But right now, there's no way to cut it. The receiver, obviously, Rice just got hurt, so that's not the issue. Pacheco wasn't hurt at the beginning. Mahomes has not been Mahomes in any of these games. And so it's not just the offense not clicking like last year. It's Mahomes making bad decisions too, uncharacteristic decisions, in which a lot of his interceptions are just like terrible. And so that has surprised me. And I don't expect Mahomes to be on a 10 every single game the rest of his life, but it does surprise me, at least with his decision making being so bad. The Colts defensive regression. Obviously Buckner's hurt, but before Buckner's hurt, bad defense. I mean, the Colts run game and defense, that's what you knew, especially run defense. And you watch them last year, you bring back a lot of those guys, and I just felt that was their calling card. And overall defensively, they just have they played a better game against my Bears, but overall they walked back, and that was kind of surprising to me. Now, Anthony Richardson, even if the defense is playing great, Anthony Richardson has been making it a little hard to win. But if the Colts don't really get back to that defensive form, I don't know how much I like their chances. Jaguars, everything about the Jaguars, surprising. I mean, and I haven't sat here and went through their film and everything, but even the film is not going to tell me, because we know the talent on that team. So, but I'm talking defense, I'm talking pass rush, secondary, O-line, run game, pass game, everything. I'm surprised that it's looking this bad. And so that's been a big surprise. Malik Willis, I mean, I just throw that out there. Whatever. I mean, I watched the games. They didn't have him do too much, but the times when he had to do something, he did something. And I don't even think this is necessarily a case of like a significantly better team, maybe a better offensive philosophy, but the receivers are good. But we all know they're all kind of, they're solid. And then the O-line is good. Probably better than Tennessee, I would definitely say. The O-line is good. Josh Jacobs helps a lot, but I don't think this is like a massive difference in switching his teams outside of the coach. And so, again, this isn't a situation where I'm being, a hypocrite and saying, I didn't think Malik could do this. I didn't think he could do it, but I don't think it's just purely, I wouldn't say couldn't do it. I didn't expect him to do it on a short turnaround. And I don't think it was purely just because the roster is better around him, excuse me. But kudos to Matt LaFleur and the staff and what they were able to do. The Falcons, they're struggling, and on offense, I should say, excuse me. And I don't understand it, man. I don't understand it. And I get the idea that Kirk might still be healing from his Achilles, but I watched it. First of all, Kirk is not a mobile quarterback. That's not his game anyway. So I never thought that was going to be a big hindrance. And yes, you could talk about not being able to do play action as much, but with Kirk's ability to distribute the ball, and even with Bijan and these athletes, like, you don't even need to get a 4-second play downfield. Like, even just some creative ways to get them the ball quickly. I thought Kirk would be perfect for being point guard. And so far, they just have not really had that game yet. We saw the drive to win the game. I forgot who that was against, but we saw that, the Eagles. So we saw that, and we saw the potential of what it could be. And we've seen glimpses, but I thought the offense for the Falcons would be way, way more productive than they've been so far. All right. I'm gonna stop it there. I was gonna talk about contenders, but it's early in the year. We'll get to contenders later. So that's it for me. Those are my early thoughts in the first quarter of football. Go to the comment section. Let me know what you think. Share it around. Get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe, and thank you for listening.